All right, I'm going to start the show.
Do it.
Welcome to the Off the Road Again podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Ross.
I'm Robby.
G'day, mate. I'm Joel.
I'm Spencer.
That's literally all of us. We have almost a dozen people on a Zoom call right now. Technically, we do have a dozen because Sam has talked multiple times now. So
It's true.
So she's on the show of record. This is our podcast about anything and everything off-road. Today's show is going to be a little different. As always, we're socially distancing, even though it's mandated and not. I'm in Kansas. Ross and Spencer and Sam are in Connecticut-ish. Robby's in Wisconsin, and Joel's in Australia.
We got a spread today.
Scheduling this show has been a nightmare.
Seriously.
to try
It's
to
taken
make...
us 4 weeks.
I think it's long. I think it's like 6 to 8 at this point.
Okay.
Like,
Been over a month.
yeah. But we knew it would happen eventually. So I had faith in us.
Almost as long as it feels like since election day.
That was like
Moving
17 years ago, right?
Oh my God. Time really has no meaning, like election day and all that. Oh, geez.
I did have somebody, I never get on Facebook anymore, but somebody tagged me in a post and it was like me taking pictures of a Shelby GT 500 back in like 2012.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't even remember that. Like, I remember the day because the Shelby GT 500 was memorable, but like, I think I was still teaching. Like, that's so long ago.
Yeah. And you didn't have to worry about the state of the world or the country at that time.
Any old pictures that pop up, I'm like, that's
Pandemics
not COVID.
and Presidents. It's like the worst album ever.
It's like going back and looking at that footage of you driving that Cobra. It's like, you don't look anything like you do. It just shows how old
Not
it
at
is.
all.
That was the worst thing ever, was hosting these on your YouTube channel, which has all that old footage on it.
Exactly. It was more about having the 300 plus subscribers already, which is why I just didn't create a new
Hey, it works.
I was like, we're getting some views on the
That's
world
like the next iteration of bragging about how many MySpace friends you have.
The worst part is my kids every now and then come up and they're like, hey dad, I watched your video. And I was like, which one? Like, which other videos are you guys thinking of? Like,
Careful.
yeah, exactly. The funny part is I think if you watch those old videos, my hair like grows out and then gets cut and then starts to grow out again.
Very nice.
Period of time.
Okay, Ross, tell me the head unit story.
So the head unit saga. So filling
It's
in
not a
everybody-
story, it's now a saga.
It's a fucking saga. It's basically been since election day.
It's the photo that he sent us, Chris. Have you got that to pop up?
By
The
now,
Rooftop
everybody
dash.
probably knows the story. The long and the short of it is I bought Chris's 4Runner. It needed some kind of Bluetooth because, modern features and amenities. So the first indication I got from Crutchfield was that in order to add Bluetooth, you have to replace the head unit. And if you replace the head unit because the wires from the old head unit to the old backup camera aren't fiber optic, you in turn have to replace the backup camera.
Ooh.
So it was probably 2.5, maybe 3 weeks of fighting the truck and battling every step of the way to remove everything from the dashboard and the center console, and then remove things from the back of the truck, from the trunk, so I could wire the new backup camera from the tailgate through the tailgate into the headliner, down the headliner into the body, and then all the way up. So finally got the head unit in. Everything fits together beautifully. It looks great.
That's not good.
Crutchfield tells me that the steering wheel controls are going to work perfectly. The backup camera is going to work perfectly, blah, blah, blah. I live 2 miles from where I work, and this took 3.5 weeks because I would get like a half hour during lunch to do it. And then I don't have a garage. So I'd park the truck outside at night and it's like 25 degrees. I'm not going out to work on the truck. And then finally got everything done. My drive home, 2 miles each way. It froze 3 times, crashed 3 times, rebooted itself 3 times. So I took it apart.
That sounds like a Tesla.
Yeah, basically. This truck is the antithesis of a Tesla. So I took it apart, pulled everything back apart, make sure every wire is perfect, make sure every connection is perfect, make sure the grounding is perfect, make sure it's like tapped into power perfect. I had one of the guys who works at the shop verify all of this for me. It's perfect. And over the next half hour of driving, the screen rebooted and shit itself 5 times again.
What?
So I kind of just.
What system is it? An Android-based system?
It's a JVC. I don't know what operating system it uses, but it's like a standard JVC head unit. Like it's nothing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of hit wit's end and reached back out to Crutchfield, and the guy I was talking to at Crutchfield was like, "Oh, by the way, there's this other option." Blah blah blah. So returned the head unit after all of this bullshit, and installed what's basically just like a Bluetooth module that plugs into the back of the screen where the DVD player, which, you know, very important for 2020 is a DVD player. So instead of a DVD player, I have a Bluetooth receiver, and it looks totally factory, and it's back together and it works, and it looks like it came from the factory, and there's Bluetooth. So it was about a month's worth of headaches and aggravation and punching things that don't really deserve to be punched because they're inanimate and don't have feelings. And yeah, now there's Bluetooth in the truck.
So you should have bought a Ram with Uconnect. Is that what I got?
Bingo.
Hey, Spen, how has your Uconnect experience been? So
not the best.
this is my brother. He has a 2016 Ram Rebel.
Yep.
And how has Uconnect treated you?
It's been pretty good for the most part, except for when I tried to update the system. And
What happened?
I just got a black screen.
Now is it,
Oh, no.
is it over the
I got a.
is that over the air update, or do you have to do it with a chip?
No,
I don't
with a
know if
chip.
they-
So
it
I
is
had
with a chip. That's what I
SD
thought.
card,
Okay.
And I downloaded it off, the Uconnect website and everything. And I updated it. I was all excited. And about half an hour later, I went back out, started the truck, and it was a black screen.
Oh no.
And so I called Uconnect, it was either Ram or Uconnect. I called some of them for technical support, and they're like, "Yeah, just you need to like reset the whole thing. Like that update's not going to work." So we went back.
Oh, that's
and,
helpful.
And we just went back to the original, which I had. And we've
So
been
you-
running that for
You updated it and then backdated it.
exactly.
It's like when you go to Windows 10 or 11 on a computer and then you realize that half of the stuff that you need to do on the computer doesn't work, and then you go back.
Yeah, we're at Windows 95 right now.
Just to touch on the Ram real quick, because we're going to get out of here probably in like 10 minutes, but we talk about the Ram Rebel kind of frequently on this podcast because it fits like a weird niche kind of void in the pickup market, because generally it's like, standard pickup, standard height, standard road tires, or Raptor. There's like not really an in between. So the Rebel kind of sits in like, slight lift and 285s. It's like kind of what you would do to a truck if you had bought it stock and then done minor modifications, but it has a warranty. And it kind of fits in a great little void there that not really much else does. And it fucking cruises beautifully. Apparently develops a vibration around extra legal speeds.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, it allegedly has a speed limiter of starts with the N and rhymes with 97.
What was?
And
Didn't somebody just post about a speed limiter of 94 on the Slack for Hooniverse?
Camille. Allegedly.
Oh, yeah, it was
Allegedly
a diesel truck.
F-350 tops it.
Yeah. Way
my
too big a
favorite-
truck to be going that fast.
So just to wrap up things with the Ram, it's a great truck. It has more space than you can ever possibly
Yep.
use. What happens when it's really hot outside and you slide the electric back window open?
Oh, it gets stuck.
What?
Oh, that's helpful.
The
No.
plastics expand and you can't close it. So you have to have someone actually hit the button and someone force it
Oh.
so that it goes back.
Is there a recall for that? There's got to be a recall for that.
I brought it back to the dealer and I told them about it, and they were like, "Yeah, people do this all the time. You just got to wait for the temperature to go down, then you put it back." But
Thanks.
Because that's helpful.
It happened when I was coming home from work one night, and it was supposed to rain that night. So I was pretty panicked. I was saying I'm gonna have to put a tarp over the truck just so that
Plastic
it
bag.
doesn't. Yeah, and my dad actually got in the back and pushed it while I pushed the button, and we somehow forced
That
it
sounds
back
horrible.
into place. But
I would be so scared of your fingers getting just like
Yeah.
crushed by the window.
yeah.
Or
Yeah.
cracking and smashing.
Oh,
The dog loved it.
I still open it, but you can't open it all the way. You can open it like halfway, even if it's 100 degrees. But
Yeah.
once you open it all the way, it's not going back.
Oh man.
Still, fucking good truck.
Dog loves putting her head out the back window.
Yeah, I bet.
You know how like when you tint the windows, there's a film on the inside of the windows. The inside of this truck has dog slobber.
Dog slobber.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
No point in wiping it every day because it's
Yeah.
going to be back.
Just gonna happen again.
Yep.
When I was still going to
So-
work, when we weren't under quarantine, I would take the dog with me every day, and that was when I saw the Land Cruiser, and so he would ride with me every day, and I would literally clean the windows like once every 4 months because like it would take that long for me to finally be like, you know what, I got to clean it. It's disgusting. But then the next day, right back there.
Mhm. See, like I get it in the back, you know, if you sit in the back seat, like the windows are, but then you get in the passenger seat and the whole passenger window, and you're like, how much is this dog sitting in the fucking?
My only passenger is her. So
This dog is like a 105-pound Rottweiler, for the record.
she
Not
lost
like-
weight. Come on.
She lost weight.
She did go to die.
She was like 110 and she's down, or no, like 115. Now she's down to like 90. But
That's still a big dog.
We
It's a big
used
dog.
we used the white Forerunner, the Stormtrooper Forerunner, once upon a time to like we just like tie her to the tow hooks and just so she couldn't get away. Anyways, we're gonna hang out for I think another 5. So what's new with you guys?
Oh my gosh. Where do we want to start? Because Joel, tell us about your new TU car.
So yeah, I finally decided to update and buy something because I was sick of driving a sedan. So I bought a wagon. So it was either going to be an SUV or a wagon, and the wagon won out at the end because it came in on a budget. So I bought a 2013 VW Passat all-track. Not
My brother owned what was it? It was a
what year?
it was a he had a 2017 or 18 or
Yeah.
whatever
All-track.
Jetta. Was it Jetta?
Golf.
All track.
Yeah. So I was looking at Golfs, I was looking at Passats, and just shopping around to see what I could find, and had a budget in mind. And this one sort of happened to pop up, but there were no photos listed on the listing. So I did a reverse search and found out which dealer it was. And I just happened to be going to a job one Sunday morning and drove past the dealership and just happened to casually look across, and I could see it parked in the lot. So I thought, finished the job, came back. There was no one at the dealership. So I wandered around, had a look, took some photos of it. The person that had previously owned it liked to touch park everywhere, whether it be wheels or front or rear. And so it needed a bit of work. But anyway, so I got test drove it, checked it out. By the time I got around to it, they hadn't roadworthied it yet. So when I got around to driving it, they had. And so they'd already fixed all the wheels and fixed most of the bodywork and stuff like that. And so I looked around, and I've now decided that after pulling the pin on it, that was the cheapest, lowest kilometer, best condition Passat all-track on the market. It had 83,000 kilometers on it, and everything else I've seen is over 100,000. It's white. I kind of wanted silver, but you can't be picky when you're looking at used. And yeah, there it is.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love the cladding around the wheel wells.
Yeah, it's
That
quite
looks
good.
great.
It's not too bad. Like it's it probably will need some black stuff on it at some stage just to
The
touch it up.
mother's polish back to black.
The guys from Bowden's here in Oz do a product that I've seen that's quite good. So at some stage I'll give them a once over. But it's had a couple of washes already, and it's just immaculate. Like you would never have known. The only thing the thing with it is that it's had baby seats in it at some stage, so the leather is kind of pushed in and marked in one of the back seats.
I'm aware of those impressions.
So you
Ross
can
is
see
too, with
the
Forerunner.
ISO points. You can see they stick out a little bit on one of the rear seats, but it's been brilliant. It's a 2-liter turbo diesel. It's DSG. That's kind of what I wanted. I didn't want to go. I don't think they do it as a manual. Chris, you put as a question mark on your notes, but yeah, it's great. I've done about 1,000 Ks on it so already. It's just absolutely brilliant in terms of space. I should.
We don't have anything comparable to that here. There's no diesel. I mean, we have.
Are they all petrol?
TDI?
Because I'm in a couple of Passat, a couple of all-track groups.
I don't think we
and-
get the Passat wagons here.
No, I don't think they do,
Wagon. We got.
but they do lots of golf wagons.
We got
We
Jetta
did.
wagons.
we did get a Passat wagon because they had that crazy W8, and you get a manual W8 all-wheel drive, so 4Motion Passat wagon.
Right, but
So
that
you
was
had to
like
drop the whole engine to do an
here's
oil change
$6,000
on.
for the car. Here's another $16,000 for all the shit that it needs.
Yep.
it's like
yes.
the Audi all roads.
The Audi all roads are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
So
don't. So I've seen a lot of guys talk about the all-track Golf that a lot of guys are buying, but there's not that many Passats, and I think they're obviously all the Golfs are petrol as well. So there is a petrol version of this, but this is also the premium. So you can see it's got the bigger wheels on it. It's got a sunroof and it's leather and paddles, which the lesser spec doesn't. And it's the bigger wheels that make a massive difference, I reckon, as well. So
Do you know? I know with a lot of those like Volkswagen diesels, like the total range per tank is something absurd. It's I think like 400 or 500 miles on a full tank. And I'm trying to think what that would be in kilometers. Like
more than that. No.
Is it more than that?
The diesel Passat, I think
Probably
some of the
700
higher
or
range
800
TDIs. I know the A8L, when they had the TDI and the A8L, was like 960 miles.
That is unbelievable.
Our dad.
mine
once
does
upon a
about
time-
8. I just filled mine the other day for the second time, and we had the range computer show that it had about 800 Ks to go. So I've been getting about
600 miles,
600 to 700 Ks out of mine. I've got a couple of photos, Chris, to show how versatile it is. Where do you want me to drop them? Just in show notes? Can you pull them out of there? Or
Yep. There or Slack, either one.
First of all, I think when you bought your all-track in the States, they didn't offer like the top tier trim with like the nicest, like the wheels, Joel, that you have on your car. They didn't offer that.
The SEL.
The SE, they call it S, like it's like S, SE, and SEL.
Yeah, the one I got was the SE,
And
that had sunroof, but the SEL I think had the different wheels.
But you couldn't get a manual
But you
in
couldn't
the
get
SEL.
you couldn't get stick with
yeah,
And
these
it
wheels, I think they're they look like they're a slug designed from like a golf wheel or something else as well.
And we didn't get what's the Volkswagen paddle shifter gearbox called?
DSG.
DSG. It wasn't a DSG gearbox. It was a like a normal wet clutch. But the other thing is, our dad once upon a time had a 2007 Silverado diesel, and the gas tank was like 23 gallons from the factory, which is like
absurdly small,
comically small for a 7,000 pound truck meant to tow.
Yeah,
So
that's weird.
He replaced
no reserve or
no. It was tiny. And the replacement, he went to a company called Titan Tanks, was like a 58 gallon tank.
Wow.
That's huge.
Theoretical range unloaded with like, with just on the highway, it was like 1,200 or 1,300 miles or something.
Yeah, wow.
But the gas tank, then
the float in the gas tank, because it was an aftermarket loader, would get caught like on the hull.
Oh no.
So you'd have like 50 gallons left in the tank, and you'd go to fill it up because it said like mostly empty, and you'd be like, wait, it took 6 gallons.
This is a 70-liter tank, so it's pretty good. Like my Mazda, my previous car was only 55, I think. So yeah, the difference with having extra range and stuff like that is brilliant. I need to do a really good economy run, like a good highway run. I haven't had a chance to do it. I've just been running more around town and stuff. But yeah, it's awesome. And so I sent a couple of pictures into Slack, Chris. You can show what I've already been. The setup is what it's already been used for. I literally had it for a week, and one of my mates contacted me and said, so you've got that wagon now, do you reckon you could go pick up some wheels for me?
No.
Yeah, sure. And so they're 4 20-inch rims with tires, and yeah, they fitted in the back of it pretty well. But the other thing I love about it as well is just working on location now. There's so much space there they are.
Oh, there we go.
So much room for activities.
So four rims in there comfortably with moving blanket to protect them.
The moving blanket.
Yeah.
Is it a manual release to drop the seat down?
Yes.
Oh, that is the best feature on
it's great.
any new vehicle. I'll tell you, as an industry analyst, that's like the one thing. If I could change one thing in the auto industry right now, is like to have every car on sale with like a drop second row or third row, just like have the pull for it, because it makes life tremendously
But it does
easier.
it to do it automatically as well. You know, that's the other thing, is it's cool.
Not manual release.
It was a manual. Oh,
Yeah.
why did I think it had a button?
So
And then the other photo Chris put up was set up for on location with my drone and everything. So it just shows how much space is in it. It's just awesome.
Yeah, wagons.
Like I've got two drone bags, battery boxes, the drone, the radio, and just you can access everything out of it. It's just, that's
a lot of cargo room, even with that back seat up.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. It's just not long enough. I have a really long roller bag that I use to put tripods and light stands and stuff in, and it's just the boot is just a little bit too short, so I have to put down, because it's obviously the 60-40 split. Yeah, I could put down one seat forward just to put the bag in, because to run it the full length. But it's not as wide as the Mazda. The Mazda actually could get this roller bag in between the two wheel wells. This thing just struggles a bit to have the space. So, but yeah, no, it's been good.
I'm becoming more and more of a wagon advocate as I go.
Yeah,
and I love wagons. I've always loved wagons. And I specifically remember when I was in college, there was this lady that would park a black CTSV wagon with a manual in town.
Oh,
and
nice.
She would get into the car in like high heat. It was like something out of a commercial or a movie. It was like, Sam, it was before I knew you. I never spoke a word to this woman. I would just like literally see her like walking to her car and getting in her car. And just like, what the fuck? But
I'm gonna find her.
Yeah, probably. I know somebody recently traded an Alpha Quadrifoglio on an E63S wagon.
Yes.
And they were They were like, yeah, it does everything just as good, but it has 5 times the space.
The Stelvio Quadrifoglio or the Giulia?
No, Giulia.
Giulia. Oh, okay. Because the Stelvio is pretty. That's a fiery hot crossover to drive.
And it's got good space in it too.
Did you see there's a red Stelvio that floats around in my complex. It's nice. Honestly though, Sam has a Soul. Sam, you don't remember if it's Soul Red Crystal or Soul Red Metallic, do you? She has a Soul Red CX-5, and when the CX-5 and the Stelvio are parked next to each other, there's some angles the CX-5 looks better.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I would like to transplant the Stelvio's drive into the CX-5, but doing so.
I'm not a big fan of the Stelvio front end, but that's just.
Oh, I don't mind it.
The Alpha front end doesn't speak to me.
It looks like, you remember in, oh, this is going to be terrible. I don't know if I can do this on the air, and this is only because we've been drinking for like an hour.
You can always do something.
You remember when you would like pull your mouth and go, woo! That's
you have been drinking.
That's what the Stelvio looks like.
It does look a bit like that.
With a beard.
Yeah, it's very different with a beard. All right. We have 5 minutes and we're going. Robby, what's new with you? Hit us.
Oh, not a lot. Well, I just wanted to comment real quick on your remark about like the Rebel being kind of that like perfect mix of the trucks. So I had about 3 weeks ago the Ram TRX on test, and the first thing I'll say is, oh, here we go. Here's a picture of it. Yeah.
Spen has sold all of his stocks in the 5 seconds since he said that.
Don't do it, Spen.
I'm gonna bankrupt myself.
No, I mean, I'll tell you guys, it is a phenomenal truck. I think the biggest surprise for me, beyond the like 702 horsepower, which is ludicrous for a pickup truck.
That's as much power as Spen's Ram, my 4Runner, and my Miata combined.
Yeah, I was my I guess I could say it. My fiance now drives a Honda. Yes,
congratulations.
Thank
Man,
you.
I've been sitting on that for weeks.
You have been sitting on that.
When did that happen?
What the fuck?
It happened on her 30th birthday on December 30th. So
That's
are
congrats, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. First marriage tip. I don't care how old she is. You never say her age.
Yep.
Even though 30 is still crazy young.
But one
Hey,
thing that
Sven,
was
how old are you? 12.
12. Yeah,
12.
we're all
Oh, man.
12.
But one thing I was telling Brenna
Cheers.
is when we had this truck is that she was like, wow, this thing is like really loud. And I was telling her, so Brenna, this pickup truck has, and I did the math and I'm like, her Honda CRV makes probably maybe 200 horsepower. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's a 2013.
Yeah.
And I was like, Brenna, this truck has essentially 4 times as much horsepower as your crossover. Which is, it's nuts. I mean, it's unfortunately here in Wisconsin, we don't really have any like proper off-road courses, which is just a travesty, or like off-road areas. But
right.
I will say this, around town, it guzzles gas. It's very, I mean, it's expectedly, it's a truck with 702 horsepower.
What does your truck get for gas mileage?
Probably like high 16s, low 17s.
So mine was
Not
the
bad.
the TRX around town was getting about 8 to 9 miles per gallon.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
it is.
I'm gonna pass on that.
But there's one saving grace about the TRX though. Yeah, here's another good picture of it.
You can drive over the gas station.
You can drive over the gas pump and the station itself, but because this truck has such phenomenal suspension work to it, I mean, I think you can get up to, I think it's like 14 inches of rear suspension travel, or maybe that's the front. It's like 13 in the front, 14 in the rear. But the TRX is so comfortable just at 25 miles an hour around town, because it just soaks up everything and there's not a ton of body roll. So yeah, that was an incredible truck. I am kicking myself in the face for not taking it off a jump, but hopefully at some point this year when COVID is done, I'll be able to do that somewhere.
All right, Musto did for us. So
Musto did. This is a dude out west. He's from the city, but that's at 80 miles per hour.
And what's ridiculous about that is I was at I'll say a COVID safe backgrounder a couple months ago where they showed the TRX, and it has like a jump mode where, like, I think it's like
It preloads the shocks.
it preloads the shocks so that when it comes down, and it's like the engineers tested it over and over and over again, and it'll like jump itself like totally fine without destroying the truck.
That's pretty cool.
so like where the Raptor immediately deploys the curtain airbags on those first gen trucks, like the TRX is like, hey, I'm about to be in the air.
Yeah.
Robby, have you driven the Raptor?
I drove a Raptor about 2 years ago. Honestly, like I love the Ram 1500 and the heavy duty. That's like my favorite truck.
They're the best of all of them right now.
Hands down, 100%. But like back to what you were saying about the perfect mix. So like the TRX is like, it's obviously like a ferocious like off-road truck. You can drive it around in everyday traffic and whatnot, but it's not the greatest like vehicle to live with if you live in the suburbs or in a city, because it doesn't get your gas mileage, and driving down a narrow street with snow on it with other cars is like
Not really well designed for that, is it?
And it weighed like 7,000 pounds.
Yeah, it does 0 to 60 in I think 4.5 seconds, and it's got like I think a 6,200 pound curb weight, which is just absurd.
Just shows how much power and torque there is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this quick story. So I every once every other week, we go to the bank to get quarters because we live in an apartment building with laundry machines that I still can't figure out how to hack into. And
just drill a hole through one quarter and put a string in it.
Oh gosh, that'd be a lot of quarters. Our laundry machines are savage. They're super pricey. But I was going through our local bank's drive-up window to exchange some cash for some quarters, and I like pulled up, and then I just heard this like. And the truck was like getting stuck in the drive-through lane.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh crap, and I'm like looking behind me, so I had to back out and then like go into another lane, and there's cars behind me, and I'm like, oh, I feel like such an asshole right now. So it doesn't fit in my bank's drive-through lane, and obviously that's a problem. It's not something you should like not buy the truck for, but the Rebel is so great because it has all that like burly styling. It's got those like great AT tires on it. It's got a
Also
phenomenal and yeah, exactly. And it's got
if you ever go away from AT2s on your truck, your seats won't match your tires. It's kind of like your shirt not matching your shoes.
Yeah, I would say like the Rebel is like all you really need. I mean, obviously you can't compare the Rebel on paper with the Raptor. But I think that if you don't want to make the full, I think the truck I had was like maybe 80 or 90,000, that TRX that I had. Yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to make that full jump into like hyper off-road, big powerful truck, you know, getting 8 miles per gallon, I think the Rebel is a perfect mix of both worlds.
So there's
What color's your Rebel, Sven?
Black.
Okay.
it's a
All black.
good-looking truck. It's
Okay.
a really
I look
good
good in red. Just did a quick
they
Google
look
search
good.
and I look
and you
really
can
good
get
in
the
red.
diesel in it now too, which is like really strong.
What size diesel?
It's the 3-liter. It's the same
Okay.
diesel that they have in the Grand Cherokee and in
Yeah.
but there's a running joke about like the Power Wagon with the actual Cummins diesel would be the best. But the running joke is less than 1% of the Jeep community actually takes their vehicles off road, like the Wrangler buying community. I'm willing to bet it'll be an even smaller percentage of that with TRX owners.
Without a doubt.
You know,
I mean,
like for lack of a better phrase, it's getting to become literally just a dick measuring contest. You know?
Robby's story makes me think about like all of those orange lights we're now seeing on every overland build. They're there because of how wide the Raptor and the TRX are. Like they have to be there as clearance lights.
Right.
It's
But
a
I've
very
seen 'em on
wide truck.
Every freaking Forerunner.
And Forerunners too. The Forerunner's not that wide.
I saw him on a Ford Edge the other day and kind of went,
Oh,
what?
no.
And it even had like the Raptor grill onto the front of the Edge. I'm like, what is happening? Like,
should I put him on the Miata? Spen said I should put him on the Miata.
I actually had a thought that I think, and obviously this is a wish and it probably will never be granted, but take the Ram 1500 TRXs. It's the amazing suspension, both off-road and on-road. The really nice interior because you got like micro suede. You actually get a traditional like pullback gear shifter instead of the rotary dial, which
yes.
it's so much better.
So take that.
I still hate it.
So take those two things, and then with the TRX's like really kind of like bulbous looks, like that really like strong looks, and put either the Eco Diesel in it or a smaller V8, and then
6.4.
call even the 6.4. Call it a day because that way
would be amazing in it, and they could probably sell it for 70 instead of 90.
So I wish that would happen. Like just offer that truck. Obviously you can't call it the TRX, but like offer that same styling, the suspension upgrades, the nice interior with like an engine that's just like a little bit less powerful and fuel efficient. Because for everybody that's like buying a truck like that and driving around Milwaukee or any other big city, you don't need 702 horsepower.
No. And that's
overkill.
The things that we're seeing constantly around here right now is I'm seeing more and more Raptors. Like not the early, like not the first gen trucks with the 6.4 V8, but like the ones that are current now. For the last, I'm seeing those, and I'm seeing Rebels all the time. Like every other Ram I see is a Rebel.
Chris, when is this show supposed to go live?
This show?
Yeah.
Crap.
End of the month.
I knew there was going to be a test. And
end of the month?
Failed.
Yeah. Sorry, not putting it on the spot. But there's a new. We can't say anything whatsoever, but there's a new Raptor coming.
This is going to go first week of February.
Okay, so by then, yeah.
There were just spy shots.
By the time this drops, we're a month into 2021. Yeah. I honestly like
the spy shots had V8 sounds too.
They did, but
that's good.
Robby's right. Like, so Spen before he bought the Ram drove the Tacoma and drove the Colorado and the Canyon, and like the limitation on those was always kind of the engine and transmission. Usually.
Yeah, I mean the space played a part, but I would say the engine was the biggest factor.
Like they need to start putting LS3 in Colorado, you know, and
Colorado was very disappointing.
Yeah,
I mean, just from my perspective, the combination of everything was really.
Is that a Duratec diesel in that thing? The Colorado?
It's maybe Duramax, yeah.
Duramax, yeah.
But there's the 3.6.
Yep.
The V6 isn't good. Like it's fine. It does great in every test, but it's just like a soulless nonsense.
So what you're saying is if you took Ford's 2.7 EcoBoost and put it in a Colorado, you'd have a ton of fun.
That's not what I'm saying.
What's going to be interesting about the Colorado is, so with GM's kind of like plans to downsize in Asia and focus here on the United States a little bit more, they sold the assembly plant in Thailand, which is where I'm pretty sure that diesel engine for the Colorado and the Canyon is made. And they sold it, I believe they finished it up like late last year. So I don't know if the diesel's still going to be in the Colorado and the Canyon for like the next couple of years, and unless they like,
that's too bad.
Unless they put it like to another plant here in the United States. But
they're like honest 30 miles per gallon trucks. They're slow as shit. I think the 0 to 60. What did we look at? It was like 10.2 or something, 0 to 60. But
they're a good engine. I mean, that's where our Colorados came from. It's where before Holden ceased to exist, they were built out of that same factory, which they sold to Mahindra, I think, from memory, as well. So it'd be interesting to see if they do anything, whether they bought any rights to that, the engineering and stuff for that model as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I thought that engine was it came out of a US model, so I thought that maybe that's where it came from.
I don't know. The truck market's a really weird place because everything is more. You know, the Uconnect that Sven has in his truck is like a full-size screen.
It used to be one of the largest, best functioning systems.
It still is. But now the TRX has this fucking.
It's like an iPad. It's like a.
It's
true iPads.
It's the Tesla influence.
Like the great thing about the Uconnect in this truck is like everything you do on the screen, you can also do with like a button or a knob. So if you're doing allegedly extra legal speeds, or your dog is throwing up in the back seat and you have to change the volume or the temperature, you can do it without toggling through the screen. Right?
Yeah, FCA has really mastered that, and the fact of like you still have this gigantic touch screen that you can still do everything on the screen if you want, but you know, the more you can look forward and just reach down to touch a button to like change a station or a climate, you know, whatever HVAC function, like that's the way I think it should be going forward. And FCA definitely has that mastered down.
It looked like the newest. What'd you say, Russ?
I'm asking Sven if there's any. His truck's been pretty good.
I mean, knock on wood, I'm at 97,000 miles.
Is there anything that you would advice for the FCA engineers who aren't listening?
No, I think altogether, like for what it is, I think it's put together just about perfectly.
And if that focus could be applied, like supposedly there's a new Dakota or something coming from FCA, like a smaller pickup, supposedly.
Like the Maverick from Ford.
Like the Maverick although isn't that possibly based on a front drive escape platform?
That's what they're saying. But the pictures that came out the other week, they couldn't confirm what it was, but you can't even get a size relationship. But then they're also reckoning that there was also a spy picture of the
new Ranger.
Yeah, there was also another SUV picture that came out. They thought there was going to be
the Fusion.
Yeah, the Fusion based SUV as well. So, you know, could it be that the same platform?
Called the Mustang Mach-E in the first place. No, but the Maverick's going to be a Ridgeline competitor if it's front wheel drive. You know.
Yeah, same as the Hyundai one as well.
Not the same buying demographic, but if Dodge can apply like what they have learned from the coil sprung Ram era,
don't do the Dodge.
I
mean that it's not like functionally there's anything wrong with it. It just doesn't feel the same. I mean, maybe growing up with pickups, it was
growing up with GM pickups.
Yeah,
it was like column shifter. Oh, you want to change gears? It's a column shifter.
There was a certain it's not pride. It's happiness that you get from shifting with it, and then shift with just a dial. It changes it.
It takes away some vital interaction with the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still better than some of you've seen some of the cars that are
it's not the buttons. 5 buttons.
Yep,
that's
it's like, I'm going to change the radio station. Surprise reverse.
Hopefully it's just surprise neutral. Let's not demo any transmissions.
I have a Suburban. Well, I had a Suburban last week, and I have a Yukon AT4 right now that I'm testing out, and it has the push buttons for the drive on the center stack. And I'm with you. I'd much rather prefer a column shifter so you can just like put it down, because I've driven so many vehicles now that have either the push buttons or the dials. And I think it's honestly that muscle memory.
Yeah.
Because if I'm like getting out of the truck and I like put it in park, I'll like take a step out and then be like, wait, is it actually in park? Yep, it is. But I think the problem with the Yukon and the Suburban, and I wish GM would have done this better, is that you have like the assembly for the buttons is like that big, you know, it's like 4 or 5 inches, park, reverse, neutral, drive, and there's a tapping for like upshifts and downshifts if you want to go into manual. But one thing that the new GM full sizes really lack is that, you know, typically when you get rid of the column shift and you go to like a shift by wire, it frees up all this extra real estate space in the center console. And there's none of that in the Suburban or the Yukon. Like you still have 2 little cup holders, you have a little spot for a phone, and the glove box, not the glove box, I'm sorry, the center stack, when you open up like the center console, there's just no room. You can't even fit like a laptop in there. You can't even fit like multiple like, you know, hats and gloves in there. I mean, there's just, I really wish they would have like gone to that shift by wire, but then also like freed up a lot of storage space. Yeah, it's a huge disappointment.
A couple things. First of all, I work at a Volvo dealership. The XC40 has been out the entire time that I work there. I still have to make sure that the XC40 is in park every time I get out of one, because it's literally, there's a ratchet style. It goes back to the same place every single time you change gear, and then a button next to it to go to park. I literally have to make sure, because the first time I got out of one, the car was still moving and I was like climbing out the side. Second, I think there's kind of a generational thing where all of our generation, you knew what the park, reverse, neutral, like that whole, you know, thing was step by, like gear by gear, slot by slot. You knew that it was going to go from reverse to, now I'm blanking, but park, reverse, neutral, drive, and so on. And as it was kind of standardized, and automakers kind of lost that bit of it being standardized by going to the buttons, even though it says the same thing, there is a muscle memory that goes with it. And the final thing of the 3 is, what was the sticker on those Suburbans? I'm so scared. We grew up in a Jeep of Jesus fucking Christ. We grew up in a house that had Jeeps and then had GM vehicles, and I know what those cost. What did the Suburban and the Tahoe cost, Robby?
So the Suburban I had was a High Country with the 6.2 liter in it, 4-wheel drive, the adaptive air suspension, and had the deployable running boards and whatnot. And I believe this one, as it sat, I think it was like 80 grand, just about. Yeah. And then I have the
it's only 10 grand away from a TRX.
Yeah. The Yukon AT4 I have right now, that particular trim starts at 65, I believe. And I think this one, with the way it's loaded up, is about 70 or so. So they're pricey. But if you go back to that picture of the, I think that was the Suburban's center console that you had. Yeah, the interior shot. But, you know, I'm all for like shift by wire, you know, assemblies, but do it so that you can actually use some of the center console space. So yeah, this glove box that, I don't know why I keep calling it the glove box, the center stack out here. So yeah, that is like, I don't know, you can put your wallet in there. You can't fit a phone in there. It's not deep enough. I don't know what you would put in there, but
my prescription sunglass case,
possibly. Yeah. But the ergonomics are so terrible on it, because you have to like, to slide it open, you have to like put your finger around the edge, press this little button, and then push it. And then to like pull it back, you can't just pull it back. You have to kind of like, you know, twirl your finger around it and grab it. It just drives me nuts. But if you look in the center stack here of the Suburban, and I think that GM did a really, really good job on the new full-size SUVs. You know, you've got like nice stitching, you've got some nice chrome. The new multimedia system is excellent. It works really well and quick.
It's like a baseball.
And the screen's not obnoxiously big, but there's just no room in the center console for anything. And I think that's a huge letdown, because like in the Expedition, it's gigantic. You know, obviously it's a truck, but like the Ram 1500, it's gigantic. Even the Nissan Armada, that's my favorite full-size SUV, has a gigantic center console compared to this.
GM's not very good at that. Like, so as I was saying, when we were growing up, our dad had a 98 Yukon and then like a 2000 Yukon. And then there was like a 2001. There were four
Tahoes,
different
Tahoes,
GMT
that one.
800 Tahoes and Yukons. And the space and like usability and cubbies and all of that, it was like endless. Like it was literally, you could store as much crap as you want. And
It was a perfect kid hauler.
it was a
just-
perfect kid hauler because you could just put shit everywhere. And then then GMT 900 came out, and it was a huge change from like small pillars and like great visibility and low dash. And the dash came up and the pillars got huge, and suddenly it felt tiny inside.
Mhm.
And it was very much like a factor of airbags going everywhere and
Mhm.
safety being a concern, but it changes how you interact with the vehicle.
Yep.
And it's I don't know, it's such a weird thing to
So
think
the-
about, like, oh, the center console and the cup holders, and like there's room for everything, and you can just toss stuff, versus like you have to make space for things.
Like a car
Mhm.
that big should have just space everywhere. You shouldn't be searching for space.
GMT the 800s, the ones like the 04 Tahoe,
Yeah,
it
that
was like the happy
Yep.
perfect medium for all of it.
It makes me laugh because I had the 03 Yukon XL, and I was like, that's great. But like looking forward, a GMT 900 would probably be all I would be able to afford in a Chevy.
You could technically afford a GMT 800.
I could, but I also took one to 248,000 miles and was quickly checking a lot of boxes that I don't want to check all the time. So
Well, we got rid of our 04 Tahoe after the ECM, and
Everything.
I forget what controls like the brakes on the car. The electric part of it just failed on the highway a couple times. And it was like, oh, this is going to be huge modules to repair. So we were like, yeah, for that reason, I'm out.
it is interesting though, like when you look at the Suburbans now, like if you go to the GMT 900 and then did they go to 1,000? What was they're like,
no.
what are they, 16 to 20s? There was like such
I
a
forget
short
what
model run.
Yeah, it's like GMT 1XX or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Is it? Oh, that's even more awkward.
I don't know.
They're all like, they were 70 grand. Like
It's fucking
even
crazy.
before the current ones came out, like if you bought one to do well with a bunch of kids in it, like,
Mhm.
and you couldn't get anything more than the 5.3. And
Your engine
I-
is way better than the 5.3.
Yeah.
I have
Without a
5.3 is a good
concerns.
engine,
Without a-
but
I will say this: after having just spent a week in the 6.2, and then this Yukon has the 5.3. At least with this Yukon right now, I would say gas mileage is actually somewhat comparable. We took a highway trip this morning to go do a driveway visit with our family, and about 100 miles of round trip, pretty much straight up highway, we were getting 19 miles per gallon, which was about the same for the full-size Suburban with the 6.2 and two-wheel drive, which was 20. But I think honestly in this Yukon, and maybe I don't remember off the top of my head if with the AT4 you get like a different exhaust with it, but I like the way this 5.3 liter sounds better than the 6.2.
is there a difference in like
Feel?
The 5.3 is not direct injected. Is the 6.2 direct injected?
Oh God, I believe so. I'd have to double check that.
I mean, that could be it. The 5.3 has always sounded good. My Avalanche.
There you go.
My brother then inherited the Avalanche. And had
why
the
he has
same
a Rebel now.
5.3. And it went through 4 exhausts in my care. Thank you,
Oh wow.
Rust.
Oh, that was
Wasn't-
Rust.
There was only one that was my fault. I won't talk about that.
The 6.2 LT1 is direct injection.
Mhm.
There you go.
Googling 5.3.
The 5.3 is definitely like throatier, and the 6.2
The
is a little bit-
5.3, according to the internet, is an L83 small block, and that does say includes direct injection.
As
I
of
was gonna say, I
what-
think all the gas
That's
V8s
what
that
you-
you can get in GM's bigger vehicles have direct injection.
That is the most cursory
Yeah.
of searches, though. I
I don't
did
think
not
it
go
was
to a
direct
bookmark.
injected back then. I think the 5.3 has since been updated because they also added cylinder deactivation to the 5.3 at a certain point, and I promise you, the Avalanche didn't have it. I had an 05 Avalanche and an 04 Tahoe.
So I guess what makes me like not concerned, but like question is, like day job is at a construction company, and almost everything in the parking lot's a pickup truck. Lots of Fords
Mhm.
with the V8 and plenty of them with the EcoBoost now. Almost every Chevy who had a 5.3 has had either a bottom end issue or spark plug issues.
Spark plug issues are common.
And it's just kind of like this. A lot of them we have a lot of Fords and we have a lot of Dodges or Rams that are showing up now. Like the guys have kind of split away. There's only like one or two Chevy, and then there I am with my.
Oh,
Yes, every fucking time.
Oh no.
Fail.
So for the listener, I
Never
apologize.
Oh no.
Oh, are you getting my back yet?
No,
You're
you're
back.
back. You might have to
You're back.
rewind.
I
My
was just
favorite-
about to make up stories about the V8 and the Sequoia, and like right before you came back.
Well, so that being said, I had a friend who he was thinking about a Sequoia, and as we were discussing it, he said he had found an engine issue, and I would have to go back and try and find.
Dude, you can find an engine issue for fucking everything if you go on the internet.
Yeah.
Because there's that many people that have talked about it or had issues, and then you can find a problem with any car if you search hard enough.
All right.
What
Well,
did he
on that
say?
note, I think it is time for us to go.
He said
So,
tower leaks.
the fuck is a tower? That sounds like a computer problem.
I don't know.
Like water cooled computer problem.
He's doing some
Suspension
research,
toweling?
and he saw some.
I was gonna say your strut tower or something.
No,
like
he
a strut
was-
tower
he
doesn't
was
really
talking about
leak
the-
unless it's like shredded completely. But
He was discussing the 5.7 and its tower leaks, and I was like, I've never heard of that, and I don't know. So instead of buying a Sequoia, he bought a used 200 series, and I was like, all right, well,
Or tower leak sounds like the next government scandal.
Towergate.
Towergate.
it's too on point. It's got to be more random than
Okay, guys.
that.
Well, good to talk to all of you.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
It was
Robbie?
nice meeting all you guys.
good to see you
Nice
guys.
to meet you.
Robbie.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet your
Appreciate
twin.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
You guys
This is
should.
weird.
And your doppelganger.
Yeah,
Separated
your
by
brother should
5
take his
parents.
glasses off and then.
Yeah, between the two of them.
Yeah. But the way it is on my monitor, Spen is sitting between Ross and me, and we look like family members now.
Holy shit. That is
Combine the
fucking
two
funny.
of you guys.
If you combined Ross and me into a person with my glasses and long hair and the rest of Ross.
Meanwhile, Joel and I are down here just like.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yay,
Sweet.
wait. 30,000 miles. Okay, all right, guys. We'll catch you later.
Sounds good.
See you guys.
Bye.
So we don't
And
have
now
to
it was
stop.
3.
We can keep going.
Yeah, that sounds good. We got a lot of.
We've got important stuff to talk about.
Okay, real fast before we get off Suburban and Yukon, the Wagoneer concept, because you actually physically saw it in person.
Yes. So back in the fall, I had a chance to see the Grand Wagoneer concept up close, sit in it, crawl around in it, press fake buttons,
Press
touch
fake
cool
buttons.
parts of it. I will tell you this: this is a very, 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 very impressive product in the making. Again, this was a quote unquote concept, but I would guess that it was, I would say probably 80 to 90% of what the concept showed inside and out is going to be what's going to be here when it hits the production lines
Really?
and goes on sale. Yeah. It's obviously not going to have the teak on the roof rails and there's actually teak in the headliners, but
right, yeah.
quite frankly, it is a gorgeous full-size SUV, and I think it's going to sell like hotcakes. They're talking about plug-in hybrid options. I think it looks really powerful. It looks really stately. It's got the big chrome grille, and the interior. I feel confident in saying that the majority of this interior, including that screen on the passenger side dashboard, is going to make it to production.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. And because you have to think about too what this vehicle is, where it's positioned. Essentially, the Grand Wagoneer, and we've heard reports too that there's going to be a Wagoneer too, so a little bit of a smaller one.
Okay.
The Grand Wagoneer is essentially supposed to go up against the Cadillac Escalade, the top Cadillac Escalade.
That makes sense.
Like in
Yeah.
price?
In price, in terms of luxury, where it sits. So I was able to sit inside it this past fall, and I will tell you this: it is it had the most spacious third row I've ever sat in a vehicle, even compared to a minivan. And there's some minivans out there that I think have excellent legroom. For me, I'm 6'2", but this Grand Wagoneer's back seat could easily fit 3 adults across. There's plenty of legroom, plenty of shoulder room, plenty of headroom. And the thing that I really appreciate about this Grand Wagoneer is that when you sit in the third row of the Suburban and the Tahoe or the Yukon, any of the big GM full sizes that just came out, yeah, that independent rear suspension like gives you a little bit more legroom, and like it makes the ride a little bit cushier. But it's still not great. Like the third row in these, like in the Suburban I had, like the seat backs were still like really firm, and I couldn't recline them, and I didn't have tons of knee room. And while it looks kind of like dramatic on the outside with the Suburban's like, you know, kind of angled C-pillar, that big thick C-pillar.
I'm going for your picture.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a picture of it somewhere.
I'm trying. I was Googling other things to ask you.
Please excuse my poor Samsung phone quality, but you can see here. So again, I'm 6'2". Like I had a little bit of knee room, but just not somewhere where I would want to sit for multiple hours at a time.
Yeah.
And if you look above my left hand, that is the inside of the C-pillar. So you have this tiny, tiny window right by your
not very big at all.
ear. Yeah, and I felt pretty claustrophobic back there. And I think that
guessing it doesn't open either, Robbie?
It doesn't open. No. You do have USB-C charging ports back there.
Is there a vent at least in the roof above you?
Oh man, I would have to double check that. I don't recall. I'm pretty sure there's vents in that second row that power folds and tumbles forward. But yeah, so to put it in comparison, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer's third row, you have that entire back window to look out. Like there's no C-pillar anywhere near where you would sit. So it's really spacious. There's really good greenhouse. It's a very, very comfortable place to be. And I have a lot of expectations for how well this Grand Wagoneer and the Wagoneer are going to do. And I think that it's just going to sell like hotcakes. And I'm really excited.
I think it'll do really well.
The amount of pictures on your Twitter media feed of your legs from the side, every time I'm like, oh wait, that one, no, that's not it. I'm trying to scroll like crazy to get to the Wagoneer picture because I know you shared it because I was like, oh.
They're surprising. Like when I you know sit in each part of these cars and like take notes and like figure out how much room I have, I get quite a bit of feedback from people that are like, hey, thank you for doing that, because like I'm tall and I want to figure out like how much legroom it is when you sit in the back seat, or if my brother is tall and he needs to ride in the back seat. So I just think it's an important thing to like, you know, take a look at.
I found it.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool. This will be a great comparison. If you can...
Masked and everything.
Yeah. So this is just to give you an idea, the difference between the Suburban's third row, and then this is the Grand Wagoneer concept. So like you've got these vents, and again, this is concept form, but I'm pretty sure a lot of this is going to hit production. But you have like controls right there by my left arm, and then you've got this giant window with more of just a simple upright C-pillar, which I think makes a world of a difference. Like you don't feel as claustrophobic. I had plenty of legroom. That second row was pushed back to where I had it when I was sitting in it. So like there is tons of legroom. Yeah, there's tons of space in there. Seat was very, very comfortable. As you can look kind of like below my thigh a little bit, but my legs aren't as lifted up off the ground.
Yeah, they're not pointed up. Yeah,
you got more space to push your feet forward as well.
Exactly. So I think that Jeep is going to knock it out of the park with this, and I think it's going to just be a huge success. Yeah. So here you go. Here's
size of that window.
Yeah.
My favorite part. How'd that dude's arm get there?
But yeah, that was at an event that FCA did. They invited some journalists and analysts down to it was kind of a backgrounder where we saw the Grand Wagoneer, the TRX. It was all safe, masked up, COVID safe, which I really appreciate.
The fire on every screen of the interior.
Yeah, I think there was like, yeah, here you go. So yeah, you had each passenger seat had a screen. There's the main screen up front, the passenger's dashboard, the lower touchscreen. So it kind of has that dual screen setup like you'd find in like any like Jaguar Land Rover product right now, or even like some Audis. And then the second row passengers get kind of this tablet, but it's a fixed tablet that you can use to adjust the controls. And I don't know how well this would help, but the entertainment screens and the headrests of that behind the first row passenger or first front two seats, that's about the same size as you would get in a Suburban or a Yukon. And I would say, I'd venture to say that's probably about maybe 11 or 12 inches across. So
yeah,
those will obviously, I think, be here in production. I do not think that you're going to get the full, obviously, mapping of, I think that's Detroit on the roof on that glass.
That was the rumor was, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Detroit, but I don't think that's going to hit production. But yeah, stay tuned for the Grand Wagoneer. I am really excited for it, and I think it's going to be really good, especially as like, you know, the whole Stellantis front comes up now.
So what gets me so curious about it is it's based on a Ram 1500, right?
I believe so. I don't know a ton about the chassis, like the underpinnings of it.
That's what platform it's on. I think it's 1500 base because like a Suburban's 225 inches long, right? But a Ram 1500 goes another 3 inches.
I'm checking my notes real quick.
They're going to be crazy long, which I think is what gets us that extra space for the third row seating. How did the cargo area look to you?
That's a great question. So yeah, it does. You're right. It does share the same underpinnings as like the Ram 1500 right now. It will have independent rear suspension, and as far as cargo area goes, I'm trying to see if I can find a photo of it. I did take a picture. So let me see if I can just blow this up really quick.
You didn't load it on Twitter.
Some pictures I did not put on Twitter. Okay, so I am going to share my screen really quick. So you, I can't.
I don't know if I have that set.
Okay.
I messed that up.
Anyway, so the cargo area behind the so I still can't share it, but that's okay. Anyways, the cargo area behind the Grand Wagoneer Concepts, like third row, I would say it's about maybe about 2 feet of space between the seat back and the hatch itself. And there's power controls to drop the third row. I would say it's about comparable to what you would see in a Tahoe or Yukon or Nissan's like Armada. So there's like definitely room for like
industry standard.
Yeah. So there's like definitely room for like a couple like duffel bags and stuff. And then I think once you drop that third row, it'll obviously be a lot more. But yeah, it's a very exciting vehicle, especially if they do offer the plug-in hybrid powertrain that they're talking about. And that should be here within the next year or two.
See, I need a Suburban basically with 4 kids, especially as large as they're getting. Like my oldest is only 12, but like he's coming in at like, I don't know, 5'5", 5'6" now, 150 pounds. Like he's a big kid.
He's going to take after dad.
Yeah. And the other two are coming behind him aren't going to be small. So when you were like 6'2" in the third row seat, like I'm staring that down in the future. Like that's probably going to be, in my coming. And so I'm like, all right, it's a used Suburban or it's maybe a Grand Wagoneer used in a couple of years.
I think honestly, and again, I can't make direct comparisons because it was like the concept that I sat in, but I think that the Grand Wagoneer is going to be the one to go for if you want the most room in the third row. The Suburban or the Yukon, like it's livable for short periods of time, but like I wouldn't drive across the country to visit me in Wisconsin if you had kids in the third row that were super tall.
Right. So that like right now we're already starting to play like musical chairs, like because kid 1.0 used to always be kind of in the third row seat. Well, the third row seat isn't working as well for him right now. So like we bumped him. So there's no bottom part to the latch system in the third row. So like kid 4.0, she gets a captain's chair no matter what, because that has the full latch system. So then we had 1.0 in the back with 2.0. And I had the 2 youngest up front. Well, now we've taken my oldest and put him up in the front, and now 2 and 3.0 are sharing the third row seat because it's just they fit better. But because the truck's so old, I only have like a 12 volt outlet in the cargo area that I put an adapter into to get two USB
Oh, geez.
connections to the third row. So like on long trips, like it's functional and it works, but like it could be better.
Yeah. Up to 2021 standards.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think we're going to upgrade it anytime soon. Like, but it's just, yeah, 4 kids is a lot of people and stuff.
Not there yet.
Yeah, don't.
Baby steps.
Please take your time.
I will.
There's no rush. Oh, sweet. I just got a text from my wife that tells me I have to go pick her up.
Oh.
I didn't know that was happening today. So we're gonna wrap up the show. Where do you want to plug stuff, guys?
Let's see. What do I have to plug?
Robby's a good follow on Twitter.
Yes, he is.
He's
Thank
very
you.
positive, which you don't always get on Twitter.
I think that's the only way to be, is just be positive and kind.
After the last doom scrolling that I've been doing forever, I'm just, like, oh, hey, Robby just said happy Friday. At least there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think honestly, the only thing I want to plug is just like keep wearing your mask.
Yeah, please.
Keep wearing your mask. Be safe.
If you can get the vaccine, get it. There's no weird.
Mm.
I had to have a conversation with a guy the other day because even my middle school science teacher education was like, at a certain point, I asked the question, do you remember biology class? And of course, the answer was no. And I was like, all right, so let's back up on how DNA works. Like, try to go. What's the subreddit? Talk to me like I'm 5, or teach it to me like I'm 5. Like the amount of, like, we need one of those for vaccine talk. Like,
Yeah.
because that's our understanding of it. It's 5. So
I have one question for Joel.
Ooh.
So you have this glorious Volkswagen Wagon that you've bought, which I'm very envious about. Are you planning on doing anything to it?
Yeah, well, so currently it's got the first mod was the Hooniverse sticker. That was the first mod that was done.
20 extra horsepower.
Yeah. Second mod was putting a new USB phone charger cable in it that I ran down the transmission tunnel because I wanted to keep the 12-volt charger in the front for charging my drone battery when I'm driving around. So I've run, there's a 12-volt in the second row under the vents. So I've run a USB cable up through down the transmission tunnel, up around the steering wheel, up to the dash, so I can charge my phone whilst driving. Third was a rubber liner in the boot, so to protect the carpets. And then hopefully after today's chat was going to be roof racks.
Yeah, we were supposed to talk about roof racks.
I didn't know Ross was bringing spin. That was like a today update.
So I'm looking at roof racks at the moment and was waiting before pulling the pin up until talking to you guys. So roof racks to then be able to put bike racks on the roof.
Nice.
And then maybe depending on which way I go, thinking about, again, was going to talk to Robby about kayaks maybe as well. And then either kayaks or a stand-up paddleboard, and then whether I go mounts for those as well. So I think I've kind of settled on probably the Thurl or Whisper bars at the moment. But stock's not the easiest thing to get here in Oz at the moment. They reckon there's a few dramas. So I asked on one of the all-track groups I'm in the other week, and I got varying degrees of either two brands. Some guys were using stock VW stuff, which I think is possibly Yakima. Some guys are using Yakima and some were using Thurl. So
does your wagon have crossbars from the factory? It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. So it's got the roof rails, and so I've just got to get bars to put it. But it's got a sunroof as well, so I have to be wary of that. But I believe the Whisperers I was looking at have an extension so that they can sit above and you can still use the thing. So, so that's kind of the next plan for it. And then it got new tires when I bought it. The guys put some cheap tires on it. So maybe some all-terrains or something different at some stage. But yeah, maybe a tune as well down the track. But yeah, there's just... I don't know. I was speaking to some guys that talked about it. I know a friend I've got to check with him. I know he does a fair bit of Volkswagen group stuff. as a tuner, but I'm pretty sure he's done some diesel stuff, because I'm pretty sure they had some Amaroks that they've tuned, and I'm pretty sure that some of those are diesel. So I need to talk to him. So that's possibly another thing as well. But yeah, it's more the fact that it's easy to live with at the moment. So yeah,
Nice.
Don't know what else to do, but yeah, I think the roof racks, and that's going to be the first thing to carry my mountain bike more than anything else. I don't want to go. I don't really want to go. I was looking at maybe going it doesn't have a tow bar on it, so I was looking at a tow bar rack, but then you're hamstrung unless you go the swivel out one to then be able to open the hatch.
Oh, good point.
At least you can put it on the roof, but then you have to be wary of it being on the roof, and I don't want to be putting it inside the boot all the time. So yeah, it's just they're the options I'm looking at. I've got a couple of friends that have got Thurl bike racks, and they think they're happy with those. So I think that's kind of the thought at the moment. So.
We'll have to dedicate a whole nother episode of the podcast to roof racks. We were supposed to talk about roof racks today.
I have more time, so
do you?
Oh, you do?
I got a text that says I'm having a glass of wine. Take your time. I'm like, all right.
Bingo. All right.
I was ready to cut this short and go. Like, again, Robby, write this down. Like, when she says go, you go. If she says no, you get time. Good news.
So do we refer to? I know you have.
Show.
I know you have kid. 1, 2, and 3, 4.0. Does Mrs. T have an acronym as well, or can we just use her name?
No,
I kind of like Mrs. T.
Oh God, no, she doesn't like that reference. She's just Sarah. She's an adult.
Well, I know it's easy to remember because it's the same name as my wife, so
right.
That's always easy to remember.
But our oldest has a friend he's been hanging out with lately, and the other couple, the man's name is Justin, but then her name is also Sarah, so like it's even easier. I don't have to worry about anything really.
No, exactly. Well, we must thank Sarah for having the extra glass of wine,
thank you.
So
we can discuss all things roof racks.
So
yes,
my favorite part is Thule, Yakima. Is there anybody else?
Well, Whisper's the one that I've found that people have talked to. Yeah, but I don't know whether
is that made by Yakima or Thule, or is that?
I don't know. They're a separate brand. I know that in terms of their website and stuff, they're Whisper bars. I think they're called. I'm trying to think what their website is. Whisper Bar. Whisper. Yeah. Yeah. Wisp. WHISPBAR.com.au is the one that I look at here, but I don't know whether they do a US version. So, but yeah, I've heard good things about those. They run a variety of stuff. What have you got on the Saab, Robby? Yeah,
so the roof rack with my Subaru, which is, if you haven't heard before, it's a 2006 Saab 92X, a Subaru essentially. When I bought the car, it had what you would call, I guess, like a naked roof. So it had spots to put in side rails, but it did not come with it.
In the rubber. Yeah,
kind of the rubber strips,
lining?
essentially. Yeah, and you would like pull it up and mount in if you could find factory. Oh, there she is. Awesome.
I'm scrolling fast today.
You are.
Yeah, you're on it today.
So you have two options with these cars, and you can either get like factory like sidebars, which you would then put in, which a friend of mine actually just did on his Subaru. But I found a pair of Thule. By the way, is it Thule or Thule? I've heard two people.
Thule, according to the company.
Thule. Okay, good.
The last time I called customer service, and we're not going to get into that whole story, it was pronounced Thule.
Okay, that's what I thought, because someone was like, it's either Thule, and I'm like, it's not Thule.
No, it's based on it's based on the Swedish, so I think it's Thule.
So I found a pair of Thule attachments that essentially are just crossbar attachments that fit directly for a Saab 92X that they sold like at the dealership, like back when the car was new. So I found some of those online, and it's a perfect fit. But then Joel, to answer your question, so I have a Yakima, I have an 11-foot Yakima cargo box.
Yeah.
I have a pair of Yakima, I think they're called like Big Bear ski racks, and they're the ski racks that'll hold, I think, like 2 pairs of skis and then like 2 snowboards. And then I also have this really cool thing called a Yakima Slim Shady. I kid you not, that's what it's called. But it's this really neat, it's an awning that you put on either side of the car's roof rack. And essentially what it does is it unzips and then you pull this big whole tarp out that's like waterproof, windproof, and everything.
You see them everywhere here in Oz. Like they're so popular.
They're so
shades.
great. Yeah. And it essentially what you do is like you pull it out, you put 2 poles down, and then you tie it down, and then you have like this outdoor covered space, which my Brent and I have used when we've gone camping before, and I've actually used it at like Road America just to like sit under. So I've got that, and the Yakima Slim Shady is really, really cool. It's a little hard to put on because it's so heavy. Because it has this like big metal bar on the other side of it that it attaches to.
I got the old sub.
Yeah, did you have a picture of it? Yeah, there we go. So there's another picture of it. Oh, that's the new one. That's still
the new one? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, your black one was the old one.
Does that sit really far forward, like over the windscreen?
Yes. So this is the Yakima cargo box that I've got, and the reason it sits so far forward is, and it looks a little bit awkward, but it does fit perfectly. I can literally go up to that and yank it, and it doesn't go anywhere. But I know the answer. Yeah, the Thule attachments that like clip into the sides of the car, those actually clip into part of like the underneath the window, or I don't even know how you call it. It's like underneath the weather stripping. It's like a direct fit. It doesn't like just like clip into the windows. But that is the only place on that car you can mount those attachments. So as a result, the roof rack sits a little bit farther forward on the car than the back. So when I put so when I put the cargo box on, that cargo box is actually as far back as it can go. Yeah. So it looks a little interesting.
Where they sit on the roof. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So if only, I wish Yakima like gave me like an extra like 4 or 5 inches of room with the rails to push the box back on, but I've done that and it works totally fine.
Is it also?
My question is,
sorry, Joel. Does it also mean your rear hatch can open without hitting the box up top?
Yes, which is critical when we go camping. So that's part of the other reason I'm okay with it. Joel, what was your question?
Yeah, so what I was going to say was my question is for in terms of with the kayak, are you just using like a V-mount or something to sit it in?
So I don't actually have a kayak mount. I really do want to get one, but here we go. Yeah, here's the old Subaru. This was in Buffalo Gap National Grassland in South Dakota outside of.
Is that number 2 or number 3?
That's the first one that I got like 200 and I think 34,000 miles out of.
Is there 3 now you've had, or 2?
2, just 2.
2, okay.
So this is the first one. But yeah, you can see it pulls out from the roof rack and then you just stake it down, and we have some wires there and some string lights. And yeah, we had dinner there. We sit there and had some beer and watch the sunset over South Dakota's Black Hills.
Have you seen the new ones that have got like a fan that come out and do like over the side and then do around the rear as well? Some of the new awnings.
But that sounds amazing. That sounds really cool.
I'm going to last week's guest's Overland, or last week's guest was a Overland company. I'm trying to get to it right now because they have one and I want it.
Yeah, it's cool. If it's the same one I'm looking at, it's pretty cool.
We had GTF Overland, which is friends with Jeff Glucker, which is how we got to meet him.
Yeah, like that.
So it's a
that is so cool.
Hold on, Joel. Wait till you see the next picture.
That's cool.
You can camp in it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
awesome.
Cool.
That's amazing to me.
That's gotta be heavy though.
Yeah, it would be.
I think it's like a ripstop nylon. I don't think it's that heavy.
Does that back bar over the hatch, is that fixed, or does it swing out?
It's a swing out around kind of thing. Wow. So like one goes in, the one that comes out front goes out front, and then the one that goes all around goes around. And I think there is one, like if we go to here, I think basically each one of these is a support, a metal support.
That's a great idea.
Oh, you can see it through it. You can see where the supports are.
Yeah, you can literally like, it's like a ribbed frame. So like, yes, it's probably heavy, but I don't know that it's that heavy. I wonder if they have the specs on here.
So what do you do with the kayaks, Robbie?
So in a perfect world, I would get what you get. or what you were saying, which is like those like kind of like
The
it
V,
looks like
yeah.
a V thing that you essentially you like lift your kayak up and it slides into it, and it kind of just like cradles the kayak like that. With kayaks, you have two options. You can, well, a couple options. You can do the V thing, which is usually the more expensive of them.
Yeah.
You can put the kayak itself face down, because you want to put the kayak face down on top of a car so the wind doesn't like scoop up it.
Yeah.
But you want to put the kayak face down either on top of the crossbars or on top of the roof. And you can transport a kayak without a roof rack, but you need to get these kind of foam blocks.
Yeah, which I've seen people using for surfboards here as well.
Yeah, and the important thing with those foam blocks, and this is whether you use them with the foam blocks or if you don't use them with the foam blocks, is like when you tighten down your kayak, because a lot of recreational kayaks are made out of this really strong like fiberglass, like I think it's like a fiberglass or plastic.
I think it's like an ABS plastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's some of the more like heavy duty ones are made out, like a sea kayak I think is fiberglass, but the recreational kayaks that are like $200, when you put those on a roof rack, and I've made this mistake before, when you tighten your straps down, and I would recommend using ratchet straps to do the job, but you got to be really careful, because with the plastic, even though it's plastic where you could throw a kayak off a cliff and it'll probably be fine, but when you torque that ratchet strap down, you can actually put like an indent in the kayak.
Yeah.
So that is obviously not good. But with the V thing, like you were talking about, that makes it a lot easier, because it's essentially holding it nice and firm. It protects that bottom of it. Oh yeah, here we go. Or you can do what I did when we had a Ford Transit and we put my and Brenna's kayaks in there. I have an 8-foot, I'm sorry, Brenna has an 8-foot kayak that I got her this past year, and then I have an 11-foot kayak.
What brand are the ones that you're running?
We have Pelicans. Pelicans are really, I think, good, just like basic recreational kayaks if you want to go out on a lake or a river, or like kayak through a marsh. You obviously don't really want to go in like a big open ocean or like one of like the bigger lakes with swells, because they're not long enough to be stable. But these kayaks are $100 to $300 if you can find them at a good price, US dollars. And my kayak, which is the bigger one, only weighs, I think, about maybe 30-40 pounds. So I can carry it just with one hand and put it on top of the car. The other thing, Joel, I don't know if you've seen this before, but besides the traditional,
that's light.
Yeah,
that's really light.
Yeah, it's a very light kayak, which is great, and I can actually carry both of ours when we're like loading them. But in addition to like the V holders that you were talking about, which if I had the cash at some point, I'll throw one of those on because those are the easiest. But you can also get something called a J hook. Have you ever heard of the J hook?
No. So
what it is it's like, if you, I don't know if Chris is pulling up. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'll talk about that in a second.
I was just scrolling through kayaks.
So a J hook, essentially, it looks like a J like this, and you have two of them. And what you do is like you put the kayak up and in, and it kind of sits at a leaned in angle.
Oh yeah.
On your roof rack, and then you just tie it through the openings in the back. I've heard mixed things about J hooks. I don't know if Chris, are you able to pull up a picture? Oh, looks like, yep, here we go.
Yeah, there's a couple of the websites I've been looking at for roof racks have shown them as well.
So here's the thing with J hooks. If you get, this is, I think, an example of where you need to spend more for good quality, unless you want your stuff completely breaking.
Yeah.
If you're going to get J hooks, spend the extra money and get like a Yakima brand, or I think Thule might make them, but get those instead, because I've heard of stories of people buying like cheap ones off Amazon or eBay for like $40. And if you look at that mounting bracket on the J hook itself, after a while, when you've got a 10-foot kayak on the highway at 80 miles an hour in the wind, those mounting brackets on the J hooks will actually crack and shift a little bit. But I think
you get what you pay for. You know, if you're going to spend, $500-600 on a kayak, what's $200 to buy a mounting thing means it's going to be looked after.
Yeah. So here's one that Thule has, and if you can see, like that mounting bracket looks really firm, and
nicely padded too.
Yeah, And that just really holds it in place. And you can actually, depending on how long your crossbars are, you can fit 2 sets of J hooks up there and lean kayaks together, kind of like up against each other, like
to help support them as well.
Mm-hmm.
The other question is, in terms of from what your experience is that, and looking at the bars and stuff with a lot of them, do you go for one that has the extension out from where it mounts, or do you have one that finishes flush where it mounts?
That's a great question. So I've always done, or the crossbar kits that I bought, like the factory ones, like provided by Thule for my car, they are almost flush with the sides of my Saab wagon, but they stick out a little bit. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. But if you were planning on using like multiple things on your roof rack, it does help to have crossbars that are really wide and they do stick out across the vehicle, like out from the vehicle a little bit more. Because that way you can hypothetically bounce, like, and maybe Chris, you've seen it on like overlanding vehicles, but the wider the crossbars are on a vehicle, it gives you more room to like put like a cargo box, but then also like mountain bikes or kayak next to it.
So if you look at that link that I dropped in the show notes, so you look at the different versions of those, say whisper bars, you can see there's a couple of versions that have flush or they have a through bar. So you have either ones that finish where it mounts,
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. Do you need that extra extension to be able to loop stuff through it to give you support tying stuff down, or is it not crucial depending on how you're setting it up?
I don't think you would need, honestly, I don't think you would absolutely need it. I think you could tie it down just with the flush version that I'm seeing right here.
Yeah.
I also like, just personal preference, like when I tie stuff through my roof rack, like through the crossbars, I like to tie it on the insides of the tower so that they're not like, there's no chance of it like flipping off the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. So on the inner side of it.
On the inner side, correct. Like more towards the inner of the roof. But, you know, I'm looking at some of these pictures right here, and if you look at this, looks like an Audi Q7 with a yellow kayak on top.
Yeah.
So you can see that those are crossbars that are obviously flush with the roof rails, flush with the sides of the vehicle. And it gives you a chance to still like tie it around, have it be tight without it like sticking out too far. So it's more so like if you want more real estate to like put different roof rack attachments next to each other, then you can do the wider the crossbar.
I just dropped a picture into Slack. Chris, do you want to share that just so we can illustrate what we're talking about with the difference?
Because that is a good thing, because some people do buy crossbars for their cars that are really, 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 really wide. And unless you're like planning to put multiple things on top.
Yeah. So you look at that, the difference between, you know, the flush bar and the through bar, you know, do you need that extra extension to give you that extra real estate to tie stuff down, or is it not so crucial at the end of the day? So,
yeah. And I think I think a lot of it's like personal preference. That's not too, that picture right there of the through bar that continues onward, that's not like too big of a stretch from the flush bar. But I have
go at least 6 to 7 inches out.
Yeah, some of them go really, really far, and that might be overkill depending on what you need it for.
That's the, I want to throw a cargo carrier up, plus on the other side I want to do random crap or like a basket next to it. Like
okay.
But Joel, if you're looking to put either your mountain bike up there or your kayak, honestly, I think that just a set of flush bars would be fine.
Okay. Yeah, cool. That's what I'm thinking. I know that a friend of mine bought a set. They've just put it on their Tiguan, and pretty sure they've got the same ones, and they've got 2 of the bike racks on there to hold them. So, that's kind of interesting. So, that was kind of what I was thinking, trying to work it out in terms of looking at options, and obviously what stock's around as well is the hardest thing. I've been in touch with a couple of stores, and they say stock's a bit difficult at the moment. So switching between brands, either the Whisper or the Thule.
The bottom of the Whisper site says it is a Yakima product trademark.
It is. I was going to say it sounded kind of familiar.
Okay.
So maybe it was like made by Yakima, but that's like that's how it's branded.
There you go. Yeah.
I will say this one suggestion, Joel, and for anyone that's like curious about this, learned from past horror stories, when you are looking to put a roof rack on your car, if your car does not have a roof rack on it, whether it be crossbars or side rails, do not buy, I repeat, do not buy one of those like universal fits all roof rack systems that you find on eBay or Amazon.
Yeah,
you
vehicle
need to
specific.
Spend the extra money, get one that actually fits, or if you do find one that is universal, spend the extra money and get it from like Yakima or Thule. Don't buy like a cheap brand. Because essentially all that those cheap brands are, and I bought one when I had my first station wagon, I bought one like that. It was like, I think $100 or something for 2 sets of crossbars. And all it really does is it mounts to the side of your car. It doesn't care what kind of car you have, how wide or like curved the roof is, and it clips under the door frames. And essentially all you do is you twist a knob to tighten it.
Yeah, against your car.
Yep, that's all it is.
Sounds healthy.
It's terrible, and it's and I think the biggest reason why I so advise against it is not only can it damage your vehicle, but it's incredibly unsafe, especially if you're putting hundreds of pounds of gear or things that are going to be caught by the wind that could yank it off. When I bought my cheap set of like crossbars for my first Saab 92X a couple years ago, I put them on right before I was about to move out to Colorado, and I was like, I gotta have a roof rack. So I bought these cheapo ones, threw them on in a couple hours. And I'm like, oh, cool, this is awesome. And as my father and I were driving out west to move me out there, I remember getting out of the car at a gas station, filling up, and then when I shut the door with the window all the way up, the glass hit the metal and cracked a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And it turns out that every single time I was opening and shutting that door, that glass was bumping up against the metal of this cheapo aftermarket thing, and it left like a permanent indent chip in the window.
Wow.
And then to make matters worse, one evening I was driving down into Denver from the mountains, and I had the front aftermarket cheapo roof crossbar on my wagon fly off on the interstate. Yeah. And thankfully the foot, I mean, it literally just flew off going like 70 whatever miles an hour, but the foot caught on the second one and it didn't completely fly off the vehicle, but I just heard this and then it was like scratching the roof. And then I pulled over and I found a dumpster and I just yanked both of them off and tossed them. So it's a very
Denver story.
Yeah, it is a very Denver story. So yeah, if I were you, anyone listening or Joel, just spend the extra money, get a Yakima or a Thule. I'm not sponsored to say this. I'm just it's the best way to do it. It's the safest way to do it, and it's going to give you like the least amount of headache when you're putting it on.
Literally, the last time I was on 70 near Denver, there was a Ford Aerostar minivan, like the classic 90s.
Excellent.
But it was an uphill, and he was in the far left lane, and his engine was done, like blew the engine, like smoke, coolant everywhere.
No.
And I was doing, as you do in the mountains, 75, 70. So around a corner, uphill, 3 lanes of traffic, and I had to go. He was trying to get to the left shoulder from the middle lane, and I had to go all the way to the right lane to get away from it. It was terrifying. I was like, that's going to be a wreck.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope.
Chris, I just dropped in a link in the show notes to another of the Batwing awnings, and there's a photo in there. You can actually see how it's assembled and how it all swivels. So it's quite interesting.
That's really
right
genius.
Yeah, it's cool. It's only $800 Australian, so that's pretty cool for what it'll do in terms of an awning.
This one's Rhino Rack too, it said. That's a good company for these.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Speaking of Rhino Racks, have you guys seen these? I think I feel like they've been around forever, but at least here in Wisconsin, they've been really just trending a lot, and I'm seeing them on all sorts of different vehicles. But these rooftop cargo baskets.
Yes.
Oh, is that a thing in Australia, Joel? Do you guys have those? Or
the rooftop baskets?
Yeah, it's like an open basket.
Yeah, it is quite popular for particularly people that are buying. Yeah, just like in that picture.
It's a Heritage Edition Land Cruiser I saw today. Sorry.
Nice.
Guys will buy, particularly for camping and stuff like that, or guys, particularly people backpackers that have come here, they've bought a car and they're literally going to live out of it and travel around the country. They'll buy a roof basket like that and stick their swag or their fuel, their jerry cans and tires and cargo boxes and whatever in that, and basically just gives you something that's got a little bit of an edge. So if stuff moves around, it's not going to sort of fall off. So yeah, they're quite popular. I think my brother-in-law was looking at one for his ute to put in just to give him a bit more space, because I think you can extend out size-wise compared to what you would with roof racks, so you give it a bit more space at the end of the day.
I think they're pretty cool. They're also not. I've seen some from Rhino Rack, and then there's some, I think, like big box store chain that has a roof rack box cargo box, or I'm sorry, cargo basket like that I've seen on a lot of vehicles around here. A lot of Subarus. I actually saw a Lexus RX the other day. It was white. It had black wheels, a black grille, and a black roof cargo basket on top, and I was like, oh, that actually looks pretty good. Like, so I think it's becoming such a popular trend, and I know some people like hate them, but I don't know, I'm all about it. I think it's great.
Well, it's just more practical space at the end of the day. So yeah. Chris, where are you at with your pod?
So I have kind of ditched a pod for now.
Okay.
I
did you get your money back for all the others?
Yeah. So
okay.
I have ordered 3. I have had 2 actually arrive to me. One was damaged in transit. It didn't even get delivered to the house. The 2 that have been delivered into the house, one had like a 13 to 14 inch crack in the top of it, like something had settled from the side. And I was like, it's supposed to be waterproof. Like,
yeah.
And then the second one that got delivered to the house, like the first one was literally the cargo container in a cardboard box, no other packaging whatsoever, explaining the crack, right? The second one to show up had in every corner kind of like a wrapped styrofoam pillar that would keep the corner of the boxes from crunching in on it. Well, the one place in between in the rear where there was no protection looked like the one place something had fallen from above and put a big T crack in the back of it. And I was just like, how do I get in? So it used to be that the company I bought it from, you couldn't buy it directly from their website. You can do that now. Because a lot of my issue was I was buying it from second parties, shipping directly from the manufacturer facility. So
drop shipping.
Yeah, the manufacturer is preparing it to ship to me. And so I think what I'm just going to do is I'm going to buy one from like a local store here. Like I'm going to wait till one's in stock somewhere or have them order it to the store. I'm not doing it at my house anymore. I'm probably going to change companies on the one that I was trying to get before. Just, I wanted the most cubic foot that I could get up there. And that's the one I ordered 3 times, and all 3 times it was destroyed before it came to me. So I don't expect a cargo carrier on the top to be able to take like a lot of damage, because I don't want that much weight up there. Like to make them incredibly indestructible, it'll be like 900 pounds up there. I don't want that. And really, like I was getting it to put clothes and crap like that up there, because then we could put the stroller and all the other crap that we need inside down by us, or put the stroller up there. Like I don't want to pack it. I dislike adding weight to the top of a vehicle. As much as I want a rooftop tent, I would probably get a trailer and mount the rooftop tent to the trailer before I would ever throw it up on top of the vehicle. I don't like weight up high.
In some of these, speaking of the rooftop tents, I mean, I think those are super, super cool. I would love to get one at some point, but I'm always very curious about the maximum weight capacity on some of these factory crossbars, because I've seen some where it's like, it's not a lot. Like I think some of them are 200-300 pounds at most. And if you have some of these rooftop tents are, they're built at 1 to 2 people, a dog, maybe some gear or whatnot, but like you're easily going to surpass the total weight of that rooftop tent plus people inside of it. I mean, again, I have not put one on top of my car, but I considered it, and it definitely exceeded, at least for the, like, for example, the like aftermarket, Thule roof bars that I have, exceeded that weight. But a system like this with that ridiculously cool looking truck, that obviously I think would be totally fine, because you have all these other brackets and supports that extend over the bed of the truck. But
So the reason I brought this one up, we talked to Taylor from Go Fast Campers, back in the fall. This only weighs like 80 pounds
that's
just as the tent.
absurd.
Yeah, wow.
So it's actually mostly fabric. Like the hinge to go up is a fabric. Like they did a lot of research on like how to make it, and then they just put the tent on everything.
Mm.
God, where do they have it?
Ooh, I like this website. This
Yeah.
is
Oh,
great.
they're the Go Fast guys are amazing.
So does it not have because some of these other like rooftop tents that I've seen, and I think Yakima's has it, it has like almost a little mattress that you can put like a cushion that's in. Do these not have it then?
So these have that too. You can, so their normal platform tent is like a lot more robust. It has like hydraulic gas chambers on the outside to actually like put it up, like where the super light doesn't have those.
That's only $350.
Yeah.
What?
That is the cheapest one I've seen, because most of them are like easily at least $500-$600, probably closer to $1,000 for some of them.
It comes with universal crossbar mounts too.
Robbie, that's got to be a typo. The base pricing is $3,750.
Oh, that is okay.
I don't know why that says $350.
Erase that.
Somebody, I will be sending Taylor Instagram message here in a little bit.
Unless it's the
excited.
base.
Well, the base RTT is $3,750. So,
I'm
but
so excited.
yeah,
It's still cool though. That still looks like a great product.
I was about to just place an order and say,
I was gonna say use that stimulus check for something.
Yeah, this one still says it's only 75 pounds.
That's wild. Because I think the other ones are like closer to like 200 pounds.
Yeah, they're much more robust. And now this isn't as big as those. Like when you fold those out, you get the size of a king bed inside of them. So, Oh hi. It sounds like I'm done. You want to say hi? You want to say hi to Robbie and Joel? No, you don't want to? Okay. Kid 4.0 is up from her nap.
Hey, there you go.
Okay. Where's
Daddy's recording?
Where's Con?
So Joel, do you see that picture in the show notes that I just threw in under your link? So I can't. I'm hoping. So essentially, it looks like a Kia Sportage with a roof cargo box mounted horizontal on the car.
That's not done right.
Which I don't know how you did that, unless the mounting teeth for the actual cargo box just so happened to fit into the side rails. Because some of these side rails,
straps across the top of it, so they haven't mounted it that way. They've actually mounted it on something.
Which is, I think that's absurd. That's gotta be so dangerous.
Yeah, that can't be good.
You know, one thing I wish that other car companies would adopt, and I think like your Wagon, for example, would be a perfect like execution for it, would be, do you know how Subaru has for the Outback the stowable crossbars? Have you ever seen those before?
No.
So Subaru on their Outback, and I believe it comes standard. They've had it for probably close to 10 years now, but on their crossbars for a really long time, or I'm sorry, not a long time, but on Subaru's crossbars on the Outback, essentially what they do is they fold away into the side rails. And when you want to use them, all they do is they kind of just deploy out like that and go across the vehicle and lock in place. So when you want to have crossbars, you can have them. When you don't, they just stow away and they lock up in place. But I'm very surprised other automakers, unless Subaru has it trademarked.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best, like, intuitive like things to happen in the auto industry.
Chris, I'm just going to post a YouTube link if you want to grab a screen grab or something off it.
Yeah,
it's interesting that they're obviously, because the size of their rails they have set up, it's just designed to sit in amongst the large rails that they have.
Yeah, and on the newest Outback that launched, I think about a year ago, they actually redid the crossbars and the side rails. The side rails on the newest Subaru Outback actually have like openings in the front, so you can tie lashing straps through, which makes everything a lot easier. And the crossbars that deploy out and connect across the vehicle have these like nice rubber stoppers on them that like help from like scratching the roof of a car. But
Yeah.
I think that Subaru, first of all, I think Subaru should make that available on all their products, like the Crosstrek or the
definitely.
Forester. But I'm really surprised no other automaker's done that, because I think that's one of the best inventions I've seen.
Yeah, and it's quick too. Like
Yeah.
it's the way that it's laid out. It doesn't take long to fold them out, and then you just literally get a wrench that's stored in the toolkit in the back and tighten it up, and away you go.
And some of the, and I think some of the the newest ones, you don't actually even have to use a wrench. I think you can actually hand tighten and lock it in place. But yeah, I mean, I think that's ingenious. And I was going to say, I feel like Volkswagen could totally pull off something like that.
Yeah, in terms of, because there is a little bit of room in them. It could be stored on the inner part of the rails for it to to work from there.
Sweet.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So any other automaker product planners, make that happen.
Chris, does that answer everything you had in the list in terms of what you wanted to talk about in terms of roof racks and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, that was a lot. I'm gonna buy from a local company. That's my solution.
I think I'm gonna head off
to a
cheapo
online
local one next week and probably pick it up. So
my favorite part is like it's one of the two major brands that I had all of my issues with. Okay, I have to go take care of my kids. So
hey, that sounds good.
Thank you both for joining us. Thank you to
thanks for putting it all together, Chris, and scheduling us all together. I'm glad we got Ross in for a little bit.
Yeah, I just need to get everyone's cell number. That'll make it way easier. Because I was talking to Joel in Slack. I was texting with Robby, and I had an email from Ross. And I was like, "What is happening? Like, I need to consolidate." So you can still read what we write on Hooniverse.com. I've written some stuff lately. I have been going down a rabbit hole of DIY electric vehicle lately, as I think more of like a hobby, just something to figure out. They're not cheap. Like it's going to be interesting. Plus, my kids were talking about like coding the other day, and I was like, well, we're going to have to code if we do an EV. So it's an excuse to learn stuff.
Teach them early.
Yeah. That's it. That's all we got. Thank you, guys.
No worries.
That was a long show.
That was a long show.